Yep. The Patriots, they really never had a chance in this game. The combination of Will Campbell, Drake May, despite the just fantastic performance from the defense, Christian Gonzalez, brilliant in this game. The Patriots never had a chance in this game with the way their offense had been performing all postseason. I mean, less than 20 points a game. Last, 2 games failing to score more than 15 points. I mean, I think, we all knew that Seattle was favored, but I'm not sure really anybody expected this, and maybe we should have, because this was the type of game that just was coming with the way that Drake May was playing, Will Campbell was playing, and to be honest, I'm putting probably 40% Will Campbell, no, 60% Will Campbell and that offensive line, but really Will Campbell, 30% Drake May, and 10% that defense. And we'll talk about the defense later, but Drake May in this game, for much of the game, he was being just brutally smacked around by that Seattle defense. And whether that was the offensive line failing to protect him or his inability to get the ball out of his hands, which he struggled with all postseason, he just was getting hounded, could not make a play. When he had open passes, he would just throw it away or overthrow it. He didn't even look nervous in that first half, but he was rushing throws, and then that second half just got even worse. I mean, missing wide open throws, throwing the ball into Seattle's hands. The 2 interceptions just did not need to happen. The fumble, I'm not going to put that one on him, but the interception, definitely his fault. And, I mean, just a brutal, brutal loss to, a team that, we could say was lucky to be there. I said this in the pregame show, it's uncertain whether you're going to get back. And this has to be a learning moment for Drake May on, just how to, just not make the mistakes that he's made this entire postseason run. And as for Will Campbell, all postseason, he was just terrible, to say the least. I think the Patriots will move him to guard next season. I don't even know if he's going to make it in the NFL. I know he's a rookie, but just the talent deficit or whatever it is just absolutely exposed him this postseason. And, Robert Kraft and this team, we know the schedule. We'll talk about the schedule in just a second. We know the schedule that is coming up for them next season. The toughest, they go from the easiest schedule to one of, if not the toughest schedule. You have games against the Chiefs. You have games against the Bills, Broncos, Seahawks you play in there. You play the Chargers. I believe you play we said Broncos, you play the Chiefs, you play the Bills, obviously, in your division. What else do you play? You just have just a gauntlet that you have to go up against. And I'm not even sure. Now, I think they're going to have a winning season next season, but this team, you look at the team and how they got here, you have to continue to add talent to this team, and I'm not sure if Robert Kraft is going to do that. He spent $300 million in the offseason to build this team, and now you look at a team that made it all the way, whether that's on luck, whether that's on just, a combination of talent, luck, brilliance from Drake May until the playoffs. And, as I said, right, this is a game where you were dead on arrival. The Seahawks, blitzes, just basically getting to the quarterback with 3 guys, right? That was the biggest problem in this game, is that Drake May had nobody to throw to, nobody to check it down to, because they were using 6 guys sometimes to guard 3. I mean, there's no way you can win a game playing like that. And, you can criticize Drake May all you want. He's been terrible these playoffs. We know. He couldn't get Stephon Diggs. We talked about this on the pregame show, right? The inability to find Stephon Diggs, get him good looks, right? But at the end of the day, when you don't have more than 3 seconds to look and make a decision, everything's rushed. You're worried. You're not worried about making the throw. You're worried about just getting blindsided each and every possession. You don't have a chance to stop, look around, think about where you're going to throw it. And that's what led to some of the overthrows. That's what led to the pick. Him trying to squeeze a gap that maybe if he had more time he would have seen was not open. Just multiple of these plays. He had that play, the 2 touchdowns, whatever. That last touchdown to Stevenson, Stevenson almost dropped that. A terrible lateral throw by Drake May just to try and get him when you're wide open. I thought that, Mike Vrabel did a fine job with the plays. I didn't like the sort of slow handoffs that they did. The, draw where they, would just hand it off instead of doing a power run. It just did not work, and it hasn't worked all season. That was a big problem for the Patriots in this game. But other than that, coaching was not the problem. The defense wasn't a problem. Christian Gonzalez was just locked down in this game. I mean, absolutely strapped Jackson Smith and Jigma up. Absolutely strapped Cooper Kupp up. Brilliant diving deflections to break up passes. This is, Christian Gonzalez is one of the greatest quarterbacks in the game. The defense has been brilliant all postseason, and the offense once again let them down. And on the biggest stage, they were not able to come through. And you look at a game here, Sam Darnold wasn't that great either. 19 of 38, 50%, 202 yards. A lot of that came on Kenneth Walker, right? The success, right, came from Kenneth Walker just breaking tackles, getting held back and then finding the way to get 3-4 yards sometimes, break free for first downs. The Patriots couldn't get anything going from their running game whatsoever. And that, basically was the difference in this game because Sam Darnold wasn't that good, right? Because of how good that Patriots defense was overall, right? Right? You look at, right, Drake May was 27 of 43. Now, a lot of those were some of those pat stats in the last drive of the game where, he was able to complete just 4 or 5 checkdowns. But for the most part, it really wasn't Sam Darnold that won you the game. It really wasn't Drake May that, totally lost you the game. Yes, Sam Darnold played better, but to be honest, it was the fact that, the Seattle Seahawks could get something going in their run game despite the great defense, and the Patriots couldn't do anything because of how quickly Drake May was just getting hounded. But, I want to keep this short. It is, approaching midnight here, and, we're not going to do another Patriots show probably like this on this channel. I mean, it is a Celtics channel after all. For a while, maybe we'll start them back up in the summer, do some stuff like that, maybe draft. But you need to, if you're the Patriots, you have to find a left tackle. I mean, that's the biggest thing that you need to do this offseason. And they're not going to have a good enough draft pick, so you have to find it in free agents. And I don't know, which free agents are available right now that are, all pro, left tackles. I'm not sure there are that many of them, to be honest, right? It's going to be one of the hardest positions for this Patriots to go out and face. And, you're going to need to add probably another receiver or two, maybe a little bit more defense. But really, that's the only thing that let you down this postseason. Because I truly believe Drake May would have been, just good enough to win you this game had he had just a slight bit more protection on just, plays where, Seattle was only blitzing 3 guys and you had to put 4, 5, 6 guys in to block. that's what made the difference, because you didn't have guys available to make passes to, with so much of your 11 men personnel going towards just protecting the quarterback, and it still didn't work. So, if you're the Patriots, go out and find one. We know the schedule. It is what it is. You're still going to be in the playoffs, I think. I still think you can be good enough to get the playoffs. And then, can you get back to the promised land on an improved version of Drake May, going through it already? Can he make the improvements necessary? He's going to have all offseason. I know he's going to come back hungry. That is the guy that he is. And to be honest, I know it feels sad and frustrating that the season's over right now. But, it's going to be here before you know it, and I can't wait for the Patriots to be back playing next season, in a season where, it's going to now be on Drake May and the Patriots to get over the hump, or you start talking about the guys that could never do it. You don't want to get into that conversation with Josh Allen, with, Josh Allen, right? You have Jamar and or Lamar, and obviously, Drake May is chasing the guys in his draft class now, because now you look at Williams, you look at Jane Daniels, right? And you're in the same conversation, guys that are maybe he's at the top of his draft class still. But with this loss, he's definitely not quite to the, top 5 in the league instead of top 5 or best in his draft class, right? He still has work to do to get into that upper class with guys like Patrick Mahomes. But, I'm going to wrap it up here. Keep this nice and short. Celtics coverage from here on out. Jason Tatum made some great progress. According to Shams today, started 5-on-5. He could be back sooner than expected here. And, their next game is not till Wednesday. Obviously, they got destroyed today. Their next game is Wednesday against the Bulls. And then it's the All-Star break. And the second half of the season, is going to go by super quickly here. We're going to have a podcast episode sometime between tonight and Wednesday, talking about the addition of Nikola Vucevic and the first few games as the Celtics here, and what I've seen, and what he's shown so far in his very few but very telling signs of this team, right? And obviously, today was not a great game for anyone, but there were definitely some things that seem like they're going to be good things and positive things to take away, and some things that were definitely signs of maybe trouble brewing. So we'll talk about that sometime this week between the Bulls game, and then we'll be back for an instant reaction after the Bulls game on Wednesday. And I'll ask that you please like and subscribe, follow on social media. Check out these podcast episodes on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, once again, the Patriots lose 29-13. Just a dominant defensive performance from the Seattle Seahawks. And I cannot wait for next season.